In the September market update of the SLO County Real Estate Podcast with Hal Swayze, we start off the show with some podcast and website analytics, which sparks JT to reintroduce the team, since the podcast has so many new listeners and people might not know the backstory of Team Swayze. Also, Hal gives the September market update, which reveals how people are being able to afford homes despite record high prices and interest rates, and what it means for the future of home buying in SLO County. Now your host, James Bueno.
I feel like today is going to be one of those days where we have an exciting podcast. I can feel the excitement in the air.
It's been building.
It is. SLO County Real Estate with Mr. Hal Swayze. How's it going, Hal?
It's going great, James.
J. Pete, how are you, sir?
Phenomenal.
We have a special guest back with us today. Would you mind introducing yourself, sir?
We've been doing these podcasts for about 18 months. You know, our very first podcast, we all introduced ourselves. So I think it might be a good idea for all of us to kind of introduce ourselves. Not our life story, but a quick introduction. That'd be okay with you guys?
Right. Well, you didn't introduce yourself, so why don't you go first?
Okay, so...
Can I chime in, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
I always like to interrupt, Jim.
Yeah.
How many listeners did we have on our first podcast?
Ooh.
2?
3.
No, honestly, I think it was like 70.
The 4.
We had
Yeah.
70 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've got the metric, but we've got a lot of people coming to our website through the podcast. What's that number you just gave?
Well, Jeff, what was the number you
Well,
gave?
the one that jumps off the page for me is in the last 24 hours, you've had 224 downloads in market 170 and a very niche real estate podcast.
For radio speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a radio term.
Isn't that a movie, or is that Sector 170 or something?
It's a small market. Let's just put it that way. It's pretty impressive. To put it into perspective, another endeavor that I've worked on for 17 years had 9 downloads in the last 24 hours.
How many people came through our podcast website?
So the numbers that I have are a little bit different. So they're clicks to our website. So we broadcast our podcast through our website through its own page. 45 days, we had 32,082 clicks.
That's more than the 3 we started.
Yes.
It is.
So I guess
It is,
introductions and
Introductions are appropriate.
Okay, there's some new people here.
Okay, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
My name's John Turner. My friends call me JT. Born right here in San Luis Obispo at the old French Hospital on Marsh Street. But I grew up 80 miles north in King City. Graduated from UC Irvine on a Saturday. Enrolled here in grad school at Poly on a Monday. 12 months later, had my MBA in 1977. Sitting in McClintock's, I said, this is the one place I want to live in the world. And it took me till age 40 to get back. I retired after about 40 years in the insurance industry, and in my first year of retirement, the phone rings and it's Hal Swayze, and I've been with Hal ever since 2017, and that's who I am.
Awesome.
Was there a thinly veiled history lesson there? Because I've not been here that long. And was French Hospital in a different location? You said on Marsh Street.
On Marsh Street, right next to those brownstones on the corner of Marsh and Toro, I think. You can still see the Red Cross insignia on the building if you look close.
Oh, it's that older building.
Yeah.
That was French Hospital.
It's like
It couldn't be
3-story
newer when he was born.
Yeah, well, it was 1954, if that gives you any hint.
Wow, I had
They
no
retired
idea.
the
I had no idea that French Hospital wasn't always where it is up on the hill. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The reason I hired John is because we met with our kids going to school together. And we were coaching youth basketball. They were probably 4th grade or 5th grade that first time. And we had a coach, and it turned out okay. And then the next year, John said, well, I'll be the head coach, but I need you and one of the Cal Poly coaches, Alex Crozier, to be my assistant coaches. So it was the Bishop's Peaks team. And all I remember is when we got to the time where we played the other Bishop's Peak class, and he rallied the troops before the game, and these are kids that are about 3 feet tall and about 8 or 9 years old. Crozier and I are behind the kids as John's talking to them. And Alex and I would have run through a wall. We were so excited to go out and just kill the other team, so to speak. So anyway, it was very inspiring, and everything he taught, we all listened. I think that coaching moment said, maybe one day John Turner will come.
And the rest of the story is we got beat.
See,
We got beat that day. I said you remember that game for the rest of your lives, and I still remember.
I forgot the result. I only remember the wins.
There you go. All right, Jay, what do you got for us?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be born in San Luis County. I was born in Paso Robles.
I didn't know that.
Born in Paso, went to San Luis High, spent a summer at the college, didn't turn out like I planned. I moved to Hawaii. And I thought, well, if I'm going to work, I'm going to work somewhere that's, I think, paradise. And I'll be, darned if after living there in Washington, Canada, Oregon, Idaho, a little bit of Arizona, time in Arizona, that this isn't the best place I found. I was fortunate enough to come home. I got into real estate in 2000, became a 1031 exchange specialist, did about $2 billion in 1031 exchange business during that time. And 8 years ago, took over the Keller Williams franchise for San Luis and northern Santa Barbara County. And now I find myself in a spot where I coach and train real estate professionals and bring a little bit of business acumen to the industry. And I really, really enjoy that. Once I determined what my major definite purpose was, and that was to help as many humans on this earth for the positive before I leave it, things just kind of lined up. And that's where Keller Williams came in, because that seems to be what they do.
Didn't you work at Fidelity National?
I did. That's why in 2001 I got a job as a title rep of all things.
You did that first, and
I did.
1030. Yeah. So I know Jay from because we interact closely with title companies and mortgage companies from there, and then the exchanges. We did a lot of that. So we helped a ton of our customers, and then kind of lost track. And he joined Keller Williams, and I wasn't part of it until recently. And the culture and the environment you bring is hard to find. Real estate is such an interesting industry because you have to cooperate with other agents to put things together, but then you also compete.
Yeah,
right,
it's interesting. Yeah,
so to be able to balance that out is a fine tact. But what I love is you're always coaching, teaching, and creating the culture where it's just automatic, just to take the high road and do what's right. And if you always follow that at work, so I just want to thank you for creating that culture for us to work.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My name is James, and my last name is Good, but in Spanish it's Bueno.
Yeah.
Buena, however you want to say it. I'm actually from the Central Valley, of a large town called Dinuba, born and raised. Been there for a while. Had a few odds and ends jobs while going to school. I purchased a screen printing and embroidery company back in 2006. And that's when I kind of got my graphic design, going to school for that. And unfortunately, 2008 happened and it didn't work out. I wasn't able to push my way through. So my goal was to get to the coast because obviously the weather's a little bit better here. And I moved to Morro Bay.
Then Dinuba.
From Dinuba.
But the weather's better in Morro Bay than Dinuba.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. So
what's Dinuba's claim to fame? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm really curious.
Oh,
isn't it a racetrack?
Because
I've heard commercials before. Like some guy says, "In Dinuba."
No, it's
like that.
Reese Foods and Odwalla.
Oh, Odwalla.
Odwalla
which is the
juice company.
Yeah, and
They're-
Reese,
Reese Foods, the burrito, the frozen.
Oh, those
Reese Foods.
Potato salad.
Those are good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Frozen burritos.
frozen burritos and
Look
fresh
at me.
juice.
Had plenty of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect
It's
combination.
2 a.m. and a glass of milk like that. That's what those burritos that come in handy.
Yeah. So worked in Morro Bay for about 13 years or so. I was teaching high school and then made a change and came over. Hal hired me for my amazing radio voice, and I'm here.
Marketing skills.
Marketing skills. I take care of pretty much anything you see out and about that's not through Hal's SOI. So internet videos, help with the podcast, photography, all the marketing side. So.
Yeah.
And I get to drive the rolling billboard.
Yeah.
The rolling,
And,
so if you
and
see
then
that
you're a
crazy
heck
band,
of a volleyball coach. You develop a lot
I
of
do.
young athletes.
So I also own. I've coached sports pretty much all my life. Creator, owner of Flight Academy Volleyball. I coach at Cal Poly for the club team, and it's fun. So that's for the club. Our first year was in 2020. We started with 7 teams, so we had 5 girls teams and 2 boys teams. This year, so in our 4th season, we will be up to 22 teams.
What? At Cal Poly alone?
No, for Flight Academy. For
Flight Academy.
for
Yeah.
Flight
No,
Academy,
I know that is a huge program.
Yeah, so we're the largest volleyball club in the Central Coast.
Yeah.
So it's grown quite a bit.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I also have almost 40 coaches, which is crazy.
Wow. You're your own little economy. And James has been phenomenal for us. The social marketing part has never been my thing. I'm more kind of a face-to-face, hands-on. And so the number of website I mean, how many?
Yeah, just look at the traffic.
I mean, how many people come
So when I got here, you averaged about 12 to 1,800 visits to your entire site. Yeah.
per
month.
minute? Oh, month.
Month,
Okay. Yeah. And now
Sorry.
Now we're over 30,000.
30,000 is better than 1,800. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, a lot of people come to us from that website, and something's driving it there, and I think it's you. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Hal, I think it's your turn.
Okay, Hal Swayze here. I am 32 years in real estate. Born in Goleta Hospital in Santa Barbara till I was 11. Grew up in Idaho. Loved to play sports, and a couple of years at Boise State, then moved to California to follow a girl, and worked and became a resident so I could afford junior college tuition. That's how much money I had. So I became a resident, which was great, and got back into playing tennis, which was fun. Moved up to San Luis Obispo to finish playing and finish my education, so did that, and then did a little corporate sales, moved to the Bay Area, and had a chance to move back to San Luis Obispo in 1990 and worked for a buddy of mine in real estate, helping him with that. And that was a big recession, and so he closed his doors in about 12 months, moved back to Idaho, where I knew him from. So that's when I got my real estate license, and I've been doing this ever since. Got married to that girl that I followed to California, so thank goodness she didn't have many choices. 2 adult boys that are great, and I'm just lucky to be here in the San Luis Obispo County.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't you also a Division I national champion tennis player?
Yeah, 30 some years, 40.
I mean, you have it
after John was born, but
you
before
have
he
the trophy
retired
somewhere.
Yeah, we do have a trophy.
You know, we're glad you moved back here. I've worked with many independent agents, not all real estate agents, many in the insurance industry, and I've never met an agent, especially at 30 years in, that's as focused and disciplined, works as hard as you do. And so that's why you get good results, and that's why your clients love you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's fun. Keeps me out of trouble. Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, everybody knows who we are now, so
yep.
I think
Let's talk about the market.
We're ready to move on. I think we need to do a market update.
Let's talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
We're going to make it a little bit brief today. I do a video every month, and this month we always have a little title, and this month we said, hey, where have all the homes gone? Seems to be continuing to be a limited inventory market. Over the month of August, our pending and closed sales were down from last year about 20%. That's better than most places in California because last year was a pretty active year, but slowed down at the end of the year. So sales down a little bit. Average prices in most areas were higher than a year ago, okay, which is hard for a lot of people to believe. The market's changed month by month, but our prices are good. Average days on the market less than a month. Okay, so if you've listened to this at all or follow real estate, we all know that's kind of a seller's market. It's not 7 days like it used to be, which is just unheard of. It's a month, which is still very much seller driven. And then our inventory is down about 16%. Okay, we've been saying that for month after month after month. But all this made me think and go, gosh, when did everything change, right? COVID, 2020. So I went back to the same month in 2019, and I looked at the number of sales, and this is my nerdy side here. On the market, when we pulled these stats, we had about 285 homes for sale in the county. And if I went back to August of 2019, we had 751. Not quite 3 times as many. And 2019 was a very normal, good market. Yeah. And then I go, well, what about the year before? 2018, 841, so more than 3 times as many. So what we're dealing with is a super low inventory market. It's been solid for real estate to be a good investment, a good place to be, a good place to be glad you owned a house and bought a house. And if you're thinking of buying a house, guess what? This is a heck of a place to be, and we have lots of reasons for that. So the other thing I kind of pointed out, people go, well, they asked me to compare this market to previous markets, and I said, you really can't. What we see every day is people coming to us now that are in a different category in terms of their financial resources. I mean, the people that are calling up going, hey, I just talked to Jeff over here. He said, you're the guy to talk to about real estate. We want to buy a house. Can we meet with you? Yeah. And the husband and wife come in and they go, yeah, we're here from Tennessee. We do some of this and some of that. We're involved a little bit in music and want to buy a house. And we like this area and these expensive areas, Edna Ranch, Avila Valley. I go, okay, well, what kind of price range do you want to stay in? And she looks at him and he looks at her and he goes, 5? And she goes, yeah, 5 to 6. And I go, okay, 5 to 6 million. Yeah. Okay. Well, in San Luis Obispo, you can get whatever the heck you want if you can find anything in that price range. And that used to be $1 million was a big deal. Had somebody else from Sonora come in and talk to us about it. Yeah, well, we want a little bit of property, but we want to stay around 3 to 4 million. Okay, those are high end. And so the complexion of the buyer that we see in this area is way different. The draw that we see is way different in terms of Tennessee. Who would have guessed Sonora? But Michigan, we see people from North Dakota. So my point is the small little town that it was and, still feels like to most people in terms of the type of folks that move here, it's changed. And I remember talking to an older client of mine who wants to buy real estate, and I go, well, do you care about cash flow or appreciation? He goes, a little cash flow is fine, but I like the appreciation. I go, boy, but the prices have gone up so much. He goes, Hal, I've been seeing this for 50 years. He goes, have you ever been to Carmel? Well, yeah. Have you been to Santa Barbara and Montecito? Yeah. Have you seen the prices there? I go, yeah, they're I guess they're higher. He goes, yeah. Where would you rather live? I go, okay, I see where you're right. So we're still a value in terms of our improvements, our lifestyle. And John, what did you say earlier? If you had a choice, where would you live? What did you?
Yeah, if money were no obstacle, where would you live? I've always chosen here, even when I couldn't live here. I knew this is where I wanted to be.
So, for example, I have family in San Diego. We went down. It's a fun place. Weather's nice, nice beaches, nice restaurants. But boy, if you value time, getting around, fighting traffic, going somewhere. I mean, here, I love it because if I'm hungry, I want to go to a movie. 5 minutes later, I'm sitting down doing one of those two things.
Thank God we have the second best weather in the world. Because if we had the first best weather, which is what you're talking about, there'd be 20 million people living here.
That's a good point.
Thank God the ocean's cold and we got to wear a hoodie after 7 o'clock in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
With shorts and flip-flops, of course.
Yeah.
So in general, I mean, it continues to be what I would call a strong kind of seller's market. And what would change that? An increase in inventory or an increase in interest rates?
So I have a question for you, Hal.
Yeah.
Everybody here in the room knows I've been in hibernation for about 6 or 7 weeks. And the fact is I was away dealing with a health issue, and good Lord willing, I'm okay. But what's happened in the last 6 or 7 weeks? Tell me what I've missed or what's changed.
Well, we've missed your presence in the office.
That's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah,
so.
No,
that's true.
That's true. Yeah, right, James. Yeah, I don't know that much has changed. I would just say that we're still seeing about and Jay can speak from a company level of 200 agents versus our small team here, but we're seeing still a lot of cash buyers. We're seeing very competitive offers. Gosh, I sold my personal residence and moved to a different property, and I got really good offers, and I got 2 offers that were the best that were contingent on someone selling their house. I knew the houses were here in town. I said, sure, I have no problem waiting, And those people sold pretty darn quickly, and they priced their home fairly, and they're nice homes. In general, I mean, these are a lot of, in my opinion, young people in their 30s were looking at my house, and that was it wasn't. I don't know how much I can say, but it ended up going for like $1.7 million for a little house downtown, right? It's crazy. And these young people were all over this house. There's a lot of resources, and people that have the ability to choose where they live have been choosing this place.
Rates did go up into the 7s. They were in the 6s.
That's true in the last
before you left.
Yeah.
Which is that's a big number for a lot of people, especially if they in their 30s and they've been looking for a year or two and at one point in time realized they could get in the 3s. Yeah. So that's a huge because 7 rates in the 7s are still historically good rates. I mean, I bought my house in 2000, the one I'm in now, in 2006, I think. Yeah, peak of the market before the last crash. But that's 7.25%. Yeah. That was right, and that was the going rate, and that wasn't unreasonable. But for those that saw 3% this time, or like 15 months ago, are freaking out. But the reality is because rates have never gone up that fast.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I've shared my son's story a number of times. He bought a house just 13 months ago up in Seattle, and we were disappointed when he got 5.96.
Now he's happy,
and now he's a happy camper, right?
Yeah.
But I've always been bullish about real estate. He bought his house for $800,000. I go on to our favorite place, but I'm probably not supposed to say, and the home value shows $750,000, right? So I ask him, "Are you concerned?" He goes, "No, Dad, we're not selling."
Yeah, we got to live somewhere.
And then I looked at it again just last week. It's back up over 800. So prices go up and down, right? But in the long term, think he's going to be okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, the prices don't go up and down. It's the interpretation of prices.
Yeah, right. You're right. No. In the last 80 years, 10% of the time, home values have gone down a little bit, but
90%.
We don't look at the 10, do we?
Yeah.
90% of the time.
And it's interesting. I don't know if we've covered this, but you're probably the most bullish. And if we did that little survey, none of us would have thought we would have probably been at 7% this time of year. And if we would have thought that, what do you think would have been happening in today's market?
Even though the number of sales and transactions are down as we compare them to 2021, and just a little bit below last year, not much.
Right.
I would have thought that difference would have been far more significant in terms of less sales transactions.
And would have affected prices.
Prices, yeah. I would have thought prices would have come
I would
down
have thought
to adjust.
prices would have started to, I'm bullish long term on real estate. I would admit that in the last couple weeks, as I've started to look around and read again, I was going, oh, shoot, was I a little too bullish in the short term?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is when we talked about 2023 in December of 2022, I said, well, I'm going to make my prediction based on two things, inventory and interest rates. And if you'd have told me interest rates were going to be 7%, I might have changed my prediction. And yet, if I'd have changed it, I'd have been wrong. We're just wrong that we didn't think interest rates would be 7%, but it didn't have the impact on the marketplace that I thought it would have.
Yeah, I agree. In general, yeah. Well, let's talk about that then in our next podcast. Interest
We
rates.
can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I love doing this to you guys. So, January 1st, give me your prediction. Jay, we'll start with you. Do you think are things going to be the same? Are we going? Is there going to be a change? I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Next year's an election year. So traditionally, we see things kind of two things happen. People are uncertain, so they're not making moves. We also get administration pressure to get the rates down because they want to pose themselves as the person that brought the rate down and get reelected. So I think both of those things might occur in Q1 when people are paying attention. If rates do come down, then I think there's going to be a little bit of a flurry in buying. We're seeing a lot more activity on the buyer side, like reaching out, like, hey, I want to get pre-qualified. I want to see what I can afford. And I'm seeing, again, 244 agents. I'm seeing a lot of escrows not follow through. Buyers not willing to make concessions, sellers not willing to, or getting priced out because rates went up above 7%. So I think in the beginning of the year, Q2 is probably going to be more, not necessarily Q1, but Q2. We're going to see a lot more of a normalized market.
JT, what do you think?
Well, you asked the question: will they be the same or different in January? They're different.
Good to have him back.
That's great. Yeah,
welcome back.
No, I think there are a couple things that I've been thinking about lately, and one of them is because of my years in the insurance industry, and I think that sometime next year we'll see some loosening up in that industry and a little more availability of homeowners insurance. And I can't tell you why I think that. I just think that people are going to begin to realize that the insurance industry is a huge driver of the economy. If you can't get car insurance and you can't get home insurance, those products don't sell. And if those products don't sell, our economy crashes, and our leaders know that. And so they might be stubborn and they might be playing politics, but I think there'll be a solution there too. Along with, I think interest rates are going to start to subside. And again, Hal said that's one of the topics for our next podcast. But so when you put those things in the environment, I'm really optimistic about 2024 for this industry. And not to mention the pent up first time buyer demand that's out there, that people are just waiting. They go, God, if we can just get back to 5.96, we'll buy our first house,
Right. Well, Hal, before you go, I was sharing these numbers with you guys before the podcast. Our home searches are up 43%. The home valuation's up 193%. I mean, are people looking? Are they getting ready? And what's happening, Hal?
It just shows the level of interest, I think, in real estate in general. It's a pretty big topic for a lot of people. No disrespect to insurance. I know everybody likes to talk about insurance.
Hey, what would you rather talk about, insurance or real estate? I know the answer.
Yeah, okay. Or my burial plan. Yeah. People get worried, like, how are my kids ever going to afford a house here? And if you look at it, really, could we ever have imagined trying to afford the house we have now, even 10 years ago? It's like, how does that work? That just can't work in our minds. But yet, it still happens. And I think when you talk about the transfer of wealth, Jay, it's interesting because, hey, baby boomers are a big part of our population, right? Mm-hmm. I'm in the early ages. There's some others. I've had a couple families reach out to me recently that inherited properties. And so they're selling these, and they're highly appreciated. And, mom and dad did a great job, and both of them have 2 properties that are very valuable now. and they're going to sell those properties, and then they're going to have the money. Now, those people are in their 50s to 60s. They're inheriting it. But, gosh, thank goodness Grandma and Grandpa bought those properties and held them.
Yeah.
Now the kids get them. The kids are in their 50s. Do they have kids? Yeah, they have kids. So maybe they have the ability to help out their kids now to get that start.
Sure.
And I think it's going to trickle down a little bit further versus, hey, I'm lucky because my parents owned a home, so I got some money. That I hear that a lot. So I think that could help because, otherwise it looks bleak. But I think that's there. And as we helped one young couple here that's, they're first-time home buyers in their family, first-time college graduates, and they were very nervous. And you think about what they're starting by owning a home, that if they continue to hold that or move into something else, when their time comes, their kids will have an advantage, maybe even their grandkids. So, real estate is a pretty amazing place to be to provide intergenerational wealth. It's a slow process, and any process worth doing is going to take some time. So I don't have a prediction for the market. I think it'll probably be the same as this year, and quite honestly, people are going to need help that want to buy and want to sell, and our job is to help them, whether things are going up, down, sideways, or inside out. So I think it'll probably be similar, yeah. But I just really think there is hope for people that are starting out because I know it's daunting.
See, that's why I gave the pregame speech, man. It's going to be a great year next year.
Right.
We're going to win next year.
That's right.
Jay, my goal is next year?
Buy a house.
To buy a house.
Good job. I'm going to hold you to that.
Good.
Babe, you got an agent?
Hold it.
He's going to buy your house, Jay, by the way.
I do have an agent, but I can't let you know who she is. Yeah. Joke.
Your wife. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Anybody have any final thoughts, last words, anything you want to say?
Good to see John Turner back in the room. Go
I was
to
going to say
Good to be
that
here, man.
too.
Good to be here.
Let's hear a quote from Bull Durham before we leave.
Yeah, don't think meat, you only hurt the team.
All right, on that note, thank you, everybody, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see everybody next week.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the How Swayze podcast. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast. It comes out every Monday, so check for it in your feed for the latest information on the San Luis Obispo County market. The Slow County Real Estate with How Swayze podcast is available wherever you get your podcast and on housewayze.com, where you can find current listings and other real estate tips. Housewayze.com, that's HALSWEASEY.com. I am James Bueno, Director of Marketing for the House Swayze Group. If you're looking for anything real estate, give us a call, 805-781-3750.
House Swayze is a licensed California real estate broker. DRE number 01111-911. The Slow County Real Estate with House Swayze podcast is a production of AGM Podcasts. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.